or not, and multiplied by the summation of the TDIR of all those matching out links multiplied by the damping. I'll explain the role of this damping factor in the next slide and add it to the TDIR. So this is a formulation for the TDR and the ranking. Okay, the damping factor is, okay, here we study with an example. Suppose block A has TDIR 2 and block B has TDIR 1. If we do not use the damping factor, then TDR would be as follows. The matching link is 1, the total outlink is 1, and the TDIR of block B is 1. So we get 3, and for B we also get 3. But this seems unfair because TDIR of block A was 2 and TDIR of block B was 1. So this should have had a more higher rank. So what we do is we introduce the damping factor, and this damping factor now normalizes it. It diminishes that effect, and these blocks get now fairness. This concept is from the page rank damping factor, as Atif talked about the damping factor in his slides. Okay. We also did some performance evaluation. We collected real blog data, and we had 102 blog sites that comprised of 50,471 blog posts, and all this was labeled manually by one manual labeler. So there was a lot of work to be done. And our experimental topics were compute, democracy, secularism, bioinformatics, Haiti, and we chose 6 topics. We measured the precision and recall. The precision was defined as the intersection between the true topic cluster and the one algorithmic found, divided by the topic clusters found through our algorithm, and recall was intersection divided by the true topic clusters. Our results are as follows. These are the various logs. We obtained an average precision of 0.87, which seemed reasonably good. For some topics we had low, especially secularism and compute, because normally many blogs mentioned the word compute, but actually they did not talk about, that was not the main theme of the blog, as the manual labeler found out. Similarly for secularism, but the rest had good accuracy, good precision, and the recall was significantly high due to the part of speech approach. We obtained a very good recall, 97.1%. Okay, now for the Twitter sphere case study that we did, as I said, hot news type topic identification. So how we do it? We have 3 modules in our system: the news module, the Twitter module, and the UI module. Within the news module, we have a news crawler and parser. It crawls news items daily. Within the news websites, we go and crawl daily news articles, and then the parser extracts entities from those news items, named entities. These entities are passed on to query composer, and in combination with the common entity corpus. Common entity corpus contains those entities they are very common. For example, those found from Wikipedia. For example, names of countries, names of presidents, well-known places, well-known people, like Obama, Mubarak, Egypt, all that would be in the common entity corpus in combination with the entities found from news and the entities in the common entity corpus. We compose a query. This query, news query, is passed to the Twitter search API from the Twitter module. For the query, for example, if there is a news article on, say, Japan, and we have the name of Japan in that blog post, the name of Japan's president, and then some other unknown people who are not that popular ministers, then the unpopular ministers would be the uncommon entities, and the popular entities are the, for example, Japan, and Japan's prime minister or president is the common one.
The emperor of Japan.
Yeah. So the common ones we use with and the uncommon ones we use with an OR operator, and pass it to the Twitter search API. The Twitter search API returns number of tweets for that topic, how many users are tweeting about that news, which is then combined with Twitter's social graph extractor. What I mean by social graph extractor is that Twitter has another API where you can find the number of followers, number of following of a particular user. So we have a rank. With that, we use ranking module. In the ranking module, we have a very simple function, which is summation of the following is to follower ratio. Why following is to follow ratio? Because, as I said, we want to identify those topics that users are interested in, heavily interesting news topics. But with emergence of social media, many media websites and news websites have also made their Twitter accounts. For example, you can find for CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, all of them have Twitter accounts. So if they would be tweeting about a news item, would that make sense to include it in a hot topic? Of course not, because they are already news sites. We want to see the user's interest. What users are tweeting about, what news concerns the users. So the following is to follower ratio is a good idea, a good metric to find out if it is a news website or a celebrity or something. Because these news sites have large number of followers, but they follow very few people. So the following is to follower ratio would be lesser for the news sites and higher for those normal users, because they follow large number of people, whereas their followers are less. So using this metric, we combine the tweets with those metric and we get a ranked news list we generated on the UI. I will show a prototype of the UI, and the unranked one go here. So I already explained the algorithm over there. Okay, this is the prototype. You cannot see it. If you are interested in watching it more closely, I will be sending you the paper after the talk. So this is the popularity by Twitter analysis on a timeline, and this is the popularity by Dawn.com, which is a famous Pakistani English newspaper. And we see that the ranks differ. Here we have users are interested in something else, whereas this ranking shows something else. So it shows that we can find what news topics are hot through this approach. And then we did some experiments, and got some significant observations. We performed experiments. We collected Dawn news articles of front page from 17th October to 26th October, and we found that for all these days, the percentage of the news in tweets was greater than 50% for all days except just one day, this one. And this one, the reason for this being that there was one news item that was heavily tweeted this day and not others. That news item was the WikiLeaks Iraq video, which came out, and the users were more interested in that rather than the other news. So it shows an important phenomena that one significant political event can drive users' attention so much. So this is a very significant observation from the point of view of users and news analysis. Okay, and then highest number of recorded tweets per day were like this. These were not much interest to the user. Some users tweeted about it, and when we found the events for which this occurred, we found that 18th October corresponds to the news of hopes fate for the trapped Chinese miners, which was an international news item, when the Chinese miners got stuck in China. So this was heavily tweeted. Similarly, 20th October, this was a suicide blast in Chechnya. This was also heavily tweeted. And then 24th, as I said, the WikiLeaks Iraq video. WikiLeaks makes fresh claim about Iraq deaths. This was also heavily tweeted. So it can be seen that international events have a lot of impact on the users, and they tweet heavily about those events. Okay. Furthermore, there is one more implication of this study. As I said, users are interested in something else and media shows something else on top. So this study can also be used to judge the media bias of different news outlets, how they are ranking and how they are showing on their front page, while users are interested in something else. So it shows that they have a particular agenda, particular alignment, and they also show, they always show some news item on top relating to a particular topic, whereas that's not the interest of the users. So this study is also important in that dimension. So with this, I conclude my talk. Any questions? Yes.
Just you want to know the sources of your statistics, and who is the owner of Twitter?
You mean, what do you mean by sources of the statistics?
You have statistics, some statistics for the results. I need to know what is this is the references for the statistics.
Oh, you mean these?
Yes.
We crawled, as I said, we crawled the daily news items of Dawn.com for these days on their front page. Dawn.com is a famous Pakistani newspaper. We crawled them daily, and we collected tweets on the Twitter search API for these. Why we have only 4 days is because Twitter search API now limits us to this much results. Earlier it had a complete index of all the tweets, but now they have some scalability issues, so they have reduced their index to just past 4 or 7 days. That's it.
And who is the owner of Twitter?
Twitter is owned by, I think it's a startup. I don't know the exact name of the owner, but I know some scientists who are working in Twitter. There is some.
Not the scientist, the owner. Who is paying for them?
I don't know. It's just a startup, and right now it.
Actually, it's basically a startup, and they had a non-profit philosophy when they launched it, and they don't have a business model for it so far.
So who is managing this Twitter?
We don't know actually because he's not being much highlighted who is managing it. But there are being deals that few companies want to buy it, but the big companies, but they are not selling it.
There's some companies that
Microsoft and others are trying to buy it because they want to have good results. However, the intent from a researcher's point of view is this, that they are gathering users' interest and data, and further in coming years they can have better speech about regions.
As we say, exploiting
exploiting
or misusing our.
It's little offensive to say that